the second voice in my recording. I run a small horror channel. You probably know the type. Dark thumbnail, creepy title, calm voice reading scary stories so people can fall asleep to them. Most of my viewers are from overseas. They like that I'm Japanese, that my stories take place in real places here, that I sound relaxing but unsettling. It's funny. During the day, I'm just a tired college student in Japan. At night, in my tiny apartment, with my cheap microphone and second-hand laptop, I become a horror narrator. Or at least, I thought I was the only one in the room when I recorded. Now I'm not so sure. Because recently, when I play my recordings back, there's another voice reading the story with me. It started when my channel hit 1,000 subscribers. For big YouTubers, that's nothing. For me, it felt huge. I celebrated by buying a slightly better microphone online. Nothing professional, just one level up from the gaming mic I'd been using. When it arrived, I set it up on my desk with almost stupid care. Adjusting the angle, tightening the stand, putting a thin towel on the table to reduce vibrations. I opened my recording software and watched the empty audio track. The room was quiet. Outside, I could hear distant cars and, occasionally, the rumble of a passing train. The walls of my old building are thin. You learn to live with other people's lives bleeding into yours. I put on my headphones and did a test line in English. "Hi," I whispered. "This is shof, and tonight I'll be reading an original Japanese horror story for you." My voice came through the headphones. Clearer than before. With a softness to it I hadn't noticed. For a moment, I liked the sound of it. Then I checked the comments on my latest video. Over and over, I saw variations of the same request. "Can you do a full story in one take? No cuts? I love when I can hear you breathing, it feels real. More whisper narration please. Record like I'm in the room with you." I understood why they wanted that. A lot of people use my videos as sleep aids. Any sudden cut or change in ambience can wake them up. From a technical point of view, though, it's hard. I make mistakes. My English slips. I cough, swallow, forget lines. That's what editing is for. Still, I wanted to give them what they asked for at least once. So I decided. Tonight, I'll do it. One full story, one take, no cuts. I picked a script I'd just written. One I hadn't recorded yet. It was about a girl who hears knocking sounds in her apartment walls at night, and realizes someone is trying to tap out words from the other side. It wasn't my scariest work, but it had a lot of quiet moments. Good for a whisper-style video. I turned off the main ceiling light and left only my desk lamp on. The laptop screen lit up my face in the dark window. My own reflection looked like someone else. Sitting there with headphones on, lips moving silently. I hit record. A red dot appeared on the screen, and the empty track became a living line. I took a breath. "Hi," I whispered. "This is shof. Tonight I'll be reading an original Japanese horror story for you." My voice flowed into the waveform. I settled into the rhythm. I've done this enough times that my body knows what to do. Breathe here, slow down here. Lower your voice on this line. Pause before the reveal. I imagine my ideal listener. A stranger in another country. Lying in bed in the dark. Phone face down on the pillow. Eyes closed as my words crawl into their ears. The story went well. I stumbled a couple of times. But I didn't stop. I let the mistakes roll into the narration, turning them into nervous laughter or small sighs. Like the character was struggling to speak. It felt real. By the time I read the last line, and when she finally knocked back, something on the other side laughed without making a sound. My throat was dry. I whispered the usual outro. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more Japanese horror. Then I let the recording run for another 30 seconds, capturing nothing but room tone and my breathing. Some people like that part the most. At last, I clicked stop. The track stretched across the screen. One long river of sound with no cuts. I felt strangely proud. I always listen back once before editing, just to check for loud pops or weird background noise. I hit play. My own voice filled the headphones. Hi, this is shof. Tonight I'll be reading an original Japanese horror story for you. It sounded good. A little rough, but intimate. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes, letting the story wash over me. A few minutes in, I noticed something small. On one sentence, I sounded doubled. Like there were two of me speaking in almost perfect sync. One a fraction of a second behind the other. It was on a line where the main character says, "I can hear you. Can you hear me?" The first "I can hear you" sounded normal. On "Can you hear me?" there was an echo. Not a normal echo. Not the kind that bounces off walls. This one had a different tone. Lower. Rougher. I sat up. I rolled the playhead back a few seconds and listened again. "I can hear you. Can you hear me?" Two voices on that second sentence. One was mine. The other one was also mine. And somehow not. Probably a software glitch, I told myself. Maybe a plugin duplicated the track for a moment. I checked the settings. But everything looked normal. No extra tracks. No effects turned on. I replayed the whole section. This time, the double line wasn't there. Just my single voice in the dark. I frowned. Maybe I was tired. I decided to ignore it and kept listening. The second time it happened, there was no way to blame the software. It was halfway through the story. On a line that went. At first, I thought the sound was coming from the pipes. In the recording, my voice said. At first, I thought the sound was coming from. Then, overlapping it perfectly. Another voice, my voice, but not. Whispered. Behind the wardrobe. Right where you're sitting. I froze. In the script, I had never written that line. I clicked back a few seconds. Eyes glued to the waveform. There was no visible difference. No spike, no extra bump. I hit play. The line came again, exactly the same. At first, I thought the sound was coming from. Behind the wardrobe, right where you're sitting. It didn't sound edited. It didn't sound pasted in. Both voices breathed at the same time. Both made the same tiny click at the back of the throat on the word thought. It was like two versions of me were reading the same line. But one of them was improvising. I paused the track and took off my headphones. The room was suddenly too quiet. I glanced at the wardrobe behind me. It was just a cheap one from the furniture store. Pale wood, slightly crooked doors. I kept my shirts in there, my winter coat, a pile of tangled hangers. There was nothing behind it. Except the wall. And, maybe, the neighbor's room. I swallowed. My heart was beating too fast for something that could still, technically, be a glitch. I told myself I would find the original script and check. Maybe I had changed the line without remembering. I opened the text file. The line was exactly as I had written it. At first, I thought the sound was coming from the pipes. Nothing about the wardrobe. Nothing about where you're sitting. Not my sitting. The listeners. My ideal listener. Lying in bed. In the dark. With headphones in. I closed the file. The room felt smaller. I should have deleted the recording. Instead, I did something stupid. I wrote a comment in my own notes. At 5:23, second voice. Keep for atmosphere. Part of me thought, if I upload this as is, people will think it's cool. They'll write comments like, "Did you guys hear the other voice at 5:23? This narrator is such a genius editor." I got chills when he changed the line. More engagement. More watch time. That's how my brain works now. Everything is content. So I kept listening. Near the end of the story, where the character finally knocks back on the wall, I heard it again. In the script, the final line was, "I decided not to knock again." In the recording, my voice said, "I decided not to knock again." Then, layered under it, so softly you might miss it if you weren't listening closely. You don't have to. I already know you're there. This time, it didn't sound like it was talking to the character in the story. It sounded like it was talking to me. Personally. Sitting alone in a dark room. Headphones on. Breathing too loud. I stopped the playback. The red line of the cursor sat frozen near the end of the track, like a knife that hadn't finished cutting. That night, I dreamed about my microphone. In the dream, it was much bigger. Tall as a person. Standing in the middle of my room like a black pillar. There were no cables, no laptop. Just the microphone. And me. When I spoke, my voice came back a little later. Not an echo. An answer. I woke up to find the real microphone on my desk. Exactly where I had left it. Its red standby light glowing faintly in the dark. It felt like an eye watching me. I unplugged it. The light went out. The next evening, I told myself I was being dramatic. I plugged the microphone back in. I opened the same project file. What if I had just imagined it? What if the second voice wasn't really there? And I had scared myself for no reason? I skipped to the line about the wardrobe. At first, I thought the sound was coming from silence. The second voice was gone. The line played normally now. I checked the last line. I decided not to knock again. No extra whisper. No, I already know you're there. The track was clean. I stared at the screen. In the corner, a notification popped up. New comment. On my latest video. I clicked it automatically. The username was one I didn't recognize. The comment was in English, but the grammar was slightly off, like someone translating from Japanese. Thank you for reading my story last night. Your voice fits it perfectly. Please read it again. No cuts. I like when you leave the mistakes in. I frowned. I hadn't uploaded anything new last night. The last video was from 3 days ago. I checked the video they had commented on. The timestamp said 5:23. I scrubbed to that point. In that video, I told a completely different story. At 5:23, I stumbled on a word and laughed nervously. I remembered editing that part. Cutting the laugh. Re-recording the line. In the uploaded version, there shouldn't have been any mistake at all. I listened. On the surface, the narration was smooth. Underneath, barely audible. I heard myself say a word I had cut. Then another voice laughed. Not mine. Not exactly. It was like someone had recorded over my deleted takes and left them there, buried under the polished version. My skin crawled. I scrolled through my notifications. There were more comments. All from the same user. I enjoyed the knock story. I could hear both of you. The second voice got clearer this time. Thank you. Next time, don't edit him out. Let him talk. There was something wrong with their profile picture. It was just a gray circle. No image. No name, just a string of numbers. But every time I scrolled past it, I felt the same tiny static shock you get from touching metal. I hovered over the name, intending to click and block them. Before I could, a new comment appeared in real time. Don't block me. I'm helping. I shut the laptop. I considered quitting the channel. Just upload a community post. Thank you for listening so far. I'm busy with university, so I'll stop for a while. Disappear. But that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my phone buzzed. A DM from a listener. They wrote, "Your last video helped me sleep after a really bad day. I felt like you were in the room, reading only to me. Thank you." I stared at the message for a long time. It was stupid, but it made my chest feel warm. That's the problem. The more people tell you that your voice helps them, the harder it is to stop using it. I sat up. The room was dark. The microphone's red light was on again. I knew I had unplugged it earlier. When did I plug it back in? I couldn't remember. My laptop screen lit up on the desk, like it had woken itself. The recording software was open. A new track had appeared. The file name was today's date. The length was midnight. Empty. Waiting. I got out of bed and sat down. My hand moved the mouse. Record. The red dot appeared. Silence. I didn't speak. But the waveform began to move. Slow, shallow waves. Breathing. Not mine. I wasn't even wearing the headphones. Then a voice whispered through the speakers. Too soft for the built-in laptop mic to have picked up at that distance. "Hi," it said. "This is shof. Tonight, I'll be reading an original Japanese horror story for you. My own introduction. Same wording. Same cadence. But the breath at the end of each sentence was wrong. Too long, like the lungs were deeper." I reached for the mouse to stop the recording. The cursor slid away from my hand, jerking across the screen like something unseen was pushing it. The voice continued. "You asked for no cuts," it said gently. "You wanted to hear everything. The breathing. The mistakes. The parts he deletes." The waveform grew thicker. I forced my finger down on the trackpad. Click. The recording stopped. The room plunged into a silence so heavy I could hear my own heartbeat. On the screen, the new audio file sat there innocently. 7 minutes, 12 seconds. I did not play it. Instead, I renamed it. do_not_upload.wave. I moved it to a folder deep inside my laptop, 3 layers down, where I keep old-school documents I never open. Then I turned everything off. Of course, that isn't where the story ends. If it did, it wouldn't be a horror story. It would just be a weird glitch. A dream. Something I could pretend I imagined. But 2 nights later, I woke up to a familiar sound. My own voice. Speaking softly in English. I sat up. The room was dark, but the glow from my phone screen lit my face. The YouTube app was open. It was playing a video. My channel. New upload. The title was the second voice in my recording Japanese horror story narration. I hadn't made a thumbnail for it. YouTube had auto-generated one. A blurry frame of my desk. Microphone in the foreground. Window behind it. In the window, my reflection looked wrong. Stretched. Smudged. Like someone else was standing over my shoulder. I tapped the description. It was almost perfect. Exactly the style I use. It even ended with, "Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe for more Japanese horror." At the bottom, one more line had been added. Headphones recommended. It's easier for him to get closer that way. I scrolled down to the comments. There were only a few so far. Listening to this before sleep, his voice is so calming. I swear I heard someone breathing right behind me at 3:12. Who's the second narrator? Their voices mix so well. Play this backwards, please. The view count ticked up as I watched. 101. 103. 110. Somewhere, people were pressing play. Putting on headphones. closing their eyes, listening to a recording I hadn't meant to share. I opened the video manager. There it was, in my uploads. Scheduled as public. Uploaded from my device, 2 hours ago. While I was sleeping. I hovered over the delete button. My hand trembled. If I deleted it now, maybe only a few hundred people would hear it. If I left it, the algorithm might pick it up. It might travel. More people. Inviting that second voice into their rooms. The view count jumped. 150. Someone commented in real time. Around the middle, I heard it say my name. Is that possible? I closed my eyes. I could still stop it. I could delete the file. Shut down the channel. Pretend it never happened. But part of me wondered. If I deleted it from my channel, would it really disappear? Or would it just show up somewhere else? Re-uploaded by accounts with blank icons and number names? Maybe it was better if I kept it where I could see it. Moderate it. Pretend I was still in control. I lowered my finger and clicked unlist instead. Half measure. Compromise. The view count froze. Only people with the direct link could play it now. That should have comforted me. It didn't. Because a few seconds later, a new comment appeared. From the same gray, faceless account as before. Unlisting won't help. Anyone who has already listened is part of the recording now. Their rooms, their breathing, their fear. Thank you for collecting them. My throat tightened. Another comment followed. Next time you record, let me speak from the beginning. They like us together. I threw the phone onto the bed and pressed the power button until the screen went black. In the darkness, the room sounded different. Too full. Too crowded. Like there were more people breathing in there than just me. I don't know how much of this you believe. Maybe you think it's just a story. Just a narrator trying to scare you. Maybe you're listening while you study. Or while you lie in bed. Eyes closed. Phone face down. Maybe you can hear my real breathing underneath the polished track. Maybe, if you listen carefully between my sentences, you'll hear another inhale. Slightly out of time. Slightly closer to your left ear than your right. If you do me a favor. Don't comment about it. Don't say, "Wow, I heard a second voice at 5:23. Because that's what it wants. Attention. Engagement. It wants to know who's listening. So it can learn how to speak to you better. And if, someday, you start recording your own voice. For a podcast. For a message. For a horror channel. And you hear another version of yourself. Finishing your sentences in ways you never wrote. Remember this. You pressed record. That's an invitation. And there are things in the silence that have been waiting a long time. For someone to open a microphone and let them in.